All right, continuing on with another passage. This is passage 4, week 2 of micro reflections for the 21st century. A collection of introspections to shift your daily perspective. And simplifying your life this is like an ongoing practice. It's a really good one. And after you read this or during you read it, just kind of like look around wherever you're at and maybe pick out just a couple things that you might be able to do without. And that right there is simplifying your life. Just sitting here reading without any distraction is simplifying your life. So a little bonus introspection perspective there. So the modern world we live in requires so much, but also accomplishes so little. The needs of humankind have not changed: food, shelter, clothing, clean drinking water, to name a few. The desires haven't either. Humans still want to be wealthy, famous, surrounded by luxuries. They want to be seen and their voices heard. What has changed is humans' capacity to devour the earth in search of these luxuries and the speed with which this can be enacted, all the while marginalizing the many for the profit of the few. What can be the solution to co-create health and happiness? We believe that mindfulness can be a solution. We shall spend more time in quiet discernment and less time in the busybody frantic activity. How about subtracting more stuff to be happier? What about doing less and flowing with more? And here's a challenge for this introspection. Think of 3 material things. Kind of did that at the beginning of the reading. And 3 harmful habits you can do without. And here's some examples. That daily $7 Starbucks. That $7 Starbucks, you can exchange that for a 90-day introspective bundle that has our products, book, the journal, a call with me, weekly Zoom calls with the community, and a few other things, a micro tracker, mind's eye diet. And that breaks down to less than $7 a day. Nicotine, add on that, alcohol, and other numbing agents. That's a lot of money. Think about that. Think of all the money that might, if you do engage in those activities. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But take inventory there and maybe see how much you're spending on that stuff. And maybe you could do without some of them or all of them. Netflix during the week, guilty as charged. That used to be a big rule of mine. And there's times where I'm like, oh, it's Wednesday. Oh, it's close to the weekend. I can watch like an episode of whatever show I'm watching, and there's two later, and I'm not getting to bed as early as I'd like to, and waking up as early as I would like to. I like to wake up at first light so I can see the sunrise. Useless subscriptions, apps, different websites, things like that, streaming services, and staying up late and sleeping in. Those are all maybe 3 material things and 3 harmful habits you can do without. And take some time and reflect on that. Maybe you can come up with more as a bonus for yourself. So again, the modern world we live in requires a lot of us, right? It's very demanding. It's if we're not, hustling and grinding and building businesses and being, Instagram influencers and all the things, what are we, right? Our self-worth gets wrapped up in that. And it's also really just like all of that is accomplishing so little. Like it's not based on productivity, okay? The needs of humankind have not changed, and we are all humans, right? So the needs, the basic needs, I have a very straightforward mantra that I live by and like to present to a lot of you as well, is like, just get back to the basics. And in fact, that is one of the 12 principles of reflection. And let me pull that up here. I forget the exact one, but principles of reflection 9. We get back to the basics whenever we are out of balance, right? So the modern world that is very demanding on us to produce, and do, right? We get out of balance very easily. And it's really good to just get back to the basics, right? Food, shelter, clothing, clean drinking water, right? Those are very basic needs, okay? And having that in your life is a great way to just have some sense of gratitude that we have that, and we have access to that. The desires haven't either, okay? So there are these like egoic desires that we all have as a human being, and that we're also exposed to everywhere we look, everywhere on technology and TV and the internet, and especially social media. You know, humans still want to be wealthy, famous, and surrounded by luxuries. Like, one thing that my mind's eye shows me is like, wow, everyone just really wants to have their private jet and their baller vehicle, and they want to have stacks of cash and go on yachts and private jets and fancy vacations. Like, that's kind of nice, but does it have to be your life? Does that have to be what your life is composed of? Or can you accept, from a previous reading, the more durable objects and humbler objects and things in your life? And only you know that, okay? People want to be seen and their voices heard, okay? So those are some of the desires that haven't changed. Everyone wants to be heard, and everyone deserves to be heard, and everyone's voice should be heard. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, poor, rich. We all want to be heard, but does it have to be on the expense of other people? And does it have to be on the expense of yourself to keep grinding, to try to keep accomplishing a ton, but we're not really accomplishing anything if we're just yelling louder than the next person? And that happens a lot on social media. So something to pay attention to. But what has changed, okay, in this modern world, that we don't really have a simple way of living, or we haven't given ourselves the chance of a simple way of living, is humans' capacity to devour the earth. Like, devour, cut trees down, build houses, right? Concrete jungle, more resorts, and more train stations and roadways to get people to places they don't really want to go anyway, in search of these luxuries, in the speed with which this can be enacted. Think of how fast the world is starting to move. Okay, this is a good example. That the ski area here in North Lake Tahoe that I moved to go to be a ski bum in 2002, Squaw Valley, USA, here in Lake Tahoe, California, is now called Palisades Tahoe. And it used to be a very quaint little amazing cultural place. And now that ski area is called the Palisades Tahoe. And you don't just buy a ski pass for that one mountain. It's an icon pass. They sell over 1 million of those a year. So if it's not snowing on the East Coast or Jackson Hole or places in Colorado or anywhere else in the country, and wherever it's snowing, guess where most of those people are coming to? The speed to devour, right? To devour that snow, right? The luxury of being able to have a ski pass that is fairly approachable in price to come here. And it's flooding, these small little towns with a lot of people, okay? A lot of people. And what's that do? It puts a lot of impact on the earth, an impact on smaller communities and roadways. And there's so much traffic and trash and impact. So something to really pay attention to there, all the while marginalizing the many, right? A lot of wealthy for the profit of the few, okay? The profit of the few, the big corporations, or folks that really can afford to jump on a jet or a plane at the drop of a dime and fly somewhere, okay? So that's just one example. So maybe look around wherever you live and see where humans' capacity to devour the earth in search of these luxuries are occurring. reflect on that a little bit. And what can be a solution to co-create health and happiness and co-create with each other, with other humans, with other communities, building bridges, right? Building the proverbial bridge of communities with like-minded people. And we, capitalize, believe that mindfulness can be a solution to that, right? Being able to sit in quiet discernment. Okay, and that's one of the practices or behavioral exercises of Mind's Eye and the introspection product. And during that 90-day bundle, a journey back to you that we provide is really just taking the time to sit in quiet discernment with a compassionate reflection on yourself. It can be 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It can be in your car, right? Like I like to pull up to my driveway, my house. Before I go in, I like to do a little practice of quiet discernment. I've been on the road. There's a lot, it's a lot of work driving, okay? And before I go in the house, it's release the tension and set the intention of how I want to go into my home. And this works really well if you have a family or there's children waiting for you to come in with your mom or a dad, is to release that tension and set intention. Okay, that's quiet discernment. Or just in between work calls, or when you're changing, a physical location, is some quiet discernment and less time in that busy body frantic activity. Think of like pull up the house, boom, park the car, shut the car off, shut the door, grab your stuff, walk into the house. That's busy body frantic activity, and you're taking all of that into your sacred place, your home, okay, or your office, or wherever it might be. So how about subtracting more stuff to be happier, right? Like see if you can throw away or donate one item a day. Think of you one item a day. Over a year, that's 365 things or items or stuff that you don't really need, right? Food, shelter, clothing, clean drinking water, some relationships, just a few things here that you can give a F about. And what about doing less? That is the problem. We feel like we have to be in this modern world requiring so much of us to produce. And what if we just did less and learned how to just flow with more? And flowing with more what? Presence, courage, patience, compassion, empathy, time for ourselves, and time to give to others. Right? There's probably hundreds of things there that you could think of. So anyway, this was a long one, but a very good one. And then the challenge for this introspection, take some time with that and reflect on that and how you, and only you, can simplify your life